Hundreds of birds surrounded the plane and forced it to land for an incredible reason. The pilots were very surprised when their plane was surrounded by hundreds of birds. The crew tried to change the course a bit to get rid of the annoying flock, but it was useless. New birds kept coming to replace the ones that fell behind. When people found out the reason for this, they were shocked for a long time. Experienced pilots, Captain Eric and co-pilot Brian, were on yet another routine civil aviation flight, with clear skies and warm weather promising smooth travel. However, shortly after takeoff, an unexpected challenge arose. For reasons unknown, the plane became surrounded by hundreds of birds that stubbornly refused to disperse. Even when Eric attempted to adjust the flight path, the situation remained unchanged, leaving the crew perplexed and concerned. The birds relentlessly pursued the plane, with new flocks continuously replacing those that lagged behind. Passengers peered out their windows in shock and disbelief as the sky darkened ominously, almost entirely obscured by the sheer number of birds. The unsettling sight left many terrified. For the experienced pilots, it was an unprecedented situation. Captain Eric couldn't shake the eerie feeling that the frenzied birds were trying to convey a message, or perhaps even urging them to turn the plane back toward the ground. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Captain Eric contacted ground control for assistance. The controllers quickly instructed them to change course and head to the nearest airport, though it was quite a distance away. Following the guidance, the pilots adjusted the plane's trajectory and began the journey toward the alternate airport. However, the relentless birds continued to swarm around the aircraft, refusing to disperse, their presence intensifying the tension on board. The situation began to resemble the terrifying beginning of an apocalypse. It was indeed very dangerous because a random bird hitting one of the plane's engines could cause it to fail, leading to a disaster. But as it is known, what is meant to happen will happen. One of the birds did get caught in the engine blades, causing a loud bang, and the plane started shaking violently. The crew immediately realized that they had just lost one of the engines. The passengers screamed in horror and despair, and the captain quickly assessed that they were unlikely to make it to the airport on one engine. Additionally, the remaining engine could also be hit by one of the crazed birds, in which case they would be doomed. There was only one option left: to attempt a water landing on the sea below them. Even in this case, the plane would likely turn into scrap metal. But with a successful landing, most lives could be saved. The entire crew and passengers held their breath. But fortunately, the experienced pilots managed to perform the nearly impossible and even relatively gently land the plane on the water. The crew managed to open one of the emergency exits on the second attempt, to which the most impatient passengers immediately rushed, only to regret their decision when dozens of aggressive birds began attacking them. The only way to escape was to get rid of the life jacket and dive underwater. The crew noticed that the birds were circling around the cargo hold, trying to get in there for some unknown reason. Fortunately, within half an hour, several Coast Guard boats arrived, as the pilots had constantly kept in touch with the ground controllers and informed them of the approximate location of the water landing. Thanks to the professionalism of the pilots and rescuers, all the plane's passengers were saved, and soon there was no one left inside, only hundreds of crazed birds stubbornly circling around the crash site. Sometime later, a special vessel arrived to tow the relatively well-preserved plane to the shore. However, when the sailors tried to attach the cables to the plane, the birds began behaving aggressively again and started attacking people. The sailors turned on special sirens with high-frequency sounds that immediately scared away the large flock. However, the birds refused to fly far away and tried to stay at a safe distance from the plane, which seemed to attract them so strongly. After some time, the police arrived to investigate the cause of the plane crash. Of course, they first questioned the pilots, who told the whole story from the beginning. Despite their many years of experience, such a thing had never happened to them before, and they had never seen birds so obsessed. Eric believed that the answer to this mystery could be in the cargo hold, where the flock was so persistently trying to get. The police immediately detained all passengers for questioning, checked their records, and found that a man who had recently been released from prison was on board. He had served several years for smuggling banned substances and drugs. The suspicious man refused to answer any questions from the officers and remained stubbornly silent, so the police eagerly awaited the moment when the plane would be towed to the shore to check the contents of the cargo hold. When the plane finally reached the shore, the police hurried to it, fighting off the birds that had returned as soon as the sirens of the departing ships fell silent. Unsettling noises emanated from the cargo hold, prompting investigators to focus their attention on several large crates. When the crates were opened, the officers were horrified to discover hundreds of exotic birds crammed tightly inside, with barely any room to move. Tragically, some of the birds had not survived the flight, while others were weak, crying out pitifully and teetering on the brink of death. It was soon revealed that the ex-convict had been attempting to smuggle exotic birds. After sedating them, he had packed them into crates and, with the help of accomplices, loaded them into the plane's cargo hold. However, during the flight, several of the birds regained consciousness and cried out for help. Their distress calls were heard by a passing flock, which, in an incredible act of solidarity, launched a relentless attack on the plane. Their efforts ultimately forced the aircraft to make an emergency landing on the water. All witnesses to the incident were astonished by the extraordinary coordination of the flock and their apparent determination to aid their distressed fellow birds. The perpetrator responsible for nearly causing a catastrophic tragedy was swiftly apprehended and returned to prison. This time, it is highly unlikely he will ever be released. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.